What's up YouTube? ODST General back again with some Starship Simulator, and sorry if you guys are watching this in a dark room because I probably just blinded you. Now anyways, we talked a bit about Starship Simulator about 5, almost 6 months ago probably now, and the video I did, I had a lot of fun making it. It took a fair bit of work even though it wasn't a super great video, but it was really more of a hype video than a proper tour of the ship, and I wanted to actually take you guys on a tour. But I got super busy after doing that video, and things haven't really slowed down for me since, so I haven't really found time to do this particular walkthrough. Then the fact that this game is always constantly updating with small little updates. There's always new things I want to show off to you guys. There isn't a whole lot of really tangible stuff, though, and that's one of the hard things to actually show off. One of the reasons I haven't is because there's been a lot of work, but, you know, about half the work that's been done, at least, probably even far more than that, has been, you know, behind-the-scenes systems and stuff like that. Now, one of the things that was already in the process of getting changed up when you guys last saw, or if you guys watched the last video, if you haven't, you should go check that out, probably. But, one of the things they were changing was the engineering, and they were setting up wiring throughout the ship. Now, if you guys didn't see that previous video, or I just didn't really cover it too well, all this wiring, everything throughout the ship is basically going to be physicalized. So everything will be powered, you know, from this reactor. This reactor will have a big cable going out, which goes here, and then this gets redirected around engineering, which gets redirected to various other distribution ports and, you know, little distribution panels for each deck and each section and everything. And all these wires can be damaged and, you know, shot up, and it can cause, you know, loss of power, can cause these other consoles to fail when they lose power. A lot of different things going on there. One of the other changes is to engineering itself. Had a pretty major overhaul. HVAC was added throughout the ship, so engineering was partially changed up to accommodate the HVAC that was added in throughout the ship. Obviously new, well, I say obviously, but if you guys haven't seen it before, you just didn't pay attention to the last video, there's new railings throughout the engineering section. A lot of little objects have been added which can be picked up and interacted with. More so just physics toys. These don't really do anything, but just something to kind of play with in the engine. So, one of the other things is all these distribution boxes and stuff were originally just like yellow placeholder boxes. So these are probably pretty close to what they're going to look like in the finalized version, with possibly some other adjustments to color and stuff that might happen later on, but this is probably a pretty close idea of what you guys can actually expect to it. And these are all interactable, and, you know, they do have some functionality. So you, for instance, unhook this one or turn it off, I should say. You'll get warning lights indicating that there's some sort of issue with it. There's also red warning lights, so it kind of depends on what the issue is. But you'll get that, so you can kind of help track down problems a little bit easier throughout the ship. And of course it is still work in progress, so like we've still got our placeholder reactor panel controls here. And then we've got our per deck lighting controls, so you can see if I shut that one off, that shuts off the lighting for this section here, which is the port side deck controls for the lighting here. We turn that back on, those lights will come back on. And we'll shut that off again here real quick. And yeah, you can see the lights are off. And of course, if you guys did see the other video, just like in the previous video, if we had a gun, which I don't, unfortunately right now the gun's been temporarily disabled, you could shoot out the actual lights and everything, and wires would come down. So that's pretty neat too. And you guys can see if we shut at the actual lights off, and again, you guys are probably going to go blind from this. It gets quite dark in the ship when the power is out. So we're actually going to turn on our flashlight. And you guys can also see, again, the HVAC's been routed through. So I think I showed off previously, maybe I did, or maybe didn't, I can't remember. But there's wires running throughout the ceiling, you know, throughout the flooring and the walls and everything. But there's also the HVAC. And the HVAC system isn't actually set up properly yet, so even though there is HVAC piping throughout the ship, there is no heating, cooling, or ventilation of any kind going on right now. It's just the setup for when that eventually will happen. And then throughout the ship has been information panels placed in each section of the ship on each deck. Now they are just placeholders, so all these have the same exact map. And these will eventually have like lighting controls and stuff also integrated into them. They are powered panels, so they do receive power, and you can damage and destroy their power supply and cause issues with that. Now let's go ahead and head on upstairs to the lounge. Now, not a whole lot has really changed on any of the other decks or anything outside of engineering. There is some additional distribution panels down below in the maintenance corridors, but you know, it's pretty similar to what we already have in the other rooms, and those will probably still see some more changes, I suspect. Now, we did see some changes here in the lounge, nothing too major, basically just the furniture that was in here, as well as some of the decorations just looking a little bit nicer. I am guessing these are going to be placeholders still, just because these were added with Christmas supplies, and I think this is just nicer placeholders than what we had previously. Now, right now, the bridge is undergoing a very, very major upgrade, and if I were on a different build I could show this off to you guys, but the ship is pretty chopped up right now while that happens. The corridor here is getting wood paneling along both sides, and the paneling that's going to go along both sides is going to basically depict Earth's northern and southern hemispheres, one on each side. And these doors and everything will still be in there. But it's a really cool looking piece, and it's going to have some benches and everything else once all is said and done. And of course that will lead onto the bridge. And the bridge itself is also getting a pretty radical overhaul. Where this kind of curves up now isn't going to do that any longer. Instead, this will extend out a bit further, and this will come straight up and down. Which I do really like the way this looks, and I think this is slightly nicer looking in a way. But what that is going to allow to happen is a couple of things. One, it'll allow Dan, the guy developing the project, to actually put a UI directly on the window, so the pilot or the captain, whoever, can actually have a UI that's on the window itself, which isn't really practical, I guess, with the current design. And the other thing it's going to allow them to do is basically have blast shutters that will come down over the window. So if you get into a combat situation, you'll be able to drop blast shutters to help kind of protect the bridge a little bit better. So that's pretty cool. And, you know, again, it is very work in progress, but you do get a sense of an idea of what kind of has changed with the bridge, because the bridge has seen some updates in this build too. Namely, the section around the bridge with these lighting rings built into the railings, and then the flooring and stuff has seen some changes, some of which is a little bit harder to really respect because of the galaxy map right here. Now, this is probably the biggest change that you guys, if you were to play this right now, can actually check out yourself. And as you guys can see, I shouldn't have walked away, but we are here on the map, so this is new. It actually shows the ship's location relative to the rest of the galaxy. But we can also switch over to Stellar Region, and it will switch the map up. As you can see, the ship's moved up. It's still in the center, and you can see all these stars nearby us. That is the Sol system that we're located by. We're actually about 0.02 light years, I want to say, from the sun. So Sol is right over there. So that's our sun over there in the distance. So we're kind of far away, but not too terribly far. It's in galactic terms, it's actually really close by, but obviously a great deal of distance away in real life terms. But we can also go in and we can select all these other stars, and you guys can see there's one selected there. That's the next closest star to us that I've highlighted. We could scan that target, and that will pull up information on it, so you guys can see all this stuff here. Now let's go ahead and let's go for something a little bit further away than that, but still something probably close by. I like this target, I guess. That one's good enough. So we've got this M-class star, and it's got a number of bodies, and it gives us the information for the planet. It's an M-class main sequence star with a temperature of 2,497 Kelvin and a radius of 129,999 kilometers. The star's habitable zone extends from 0.02 AU to 0.04, and if we go down and look, we can see that there is nothing within range that's in the habitable zone. Everything else is quite far away from the sun in those terms, so this thing's only 0.12, but it's still in the cold zones, hence everything else is basically frozen in the system. And frost line extends out to 0.14 AU. and it's got 11 orbiting bodies. So yeah, its frost zone's 0.14, but then if we actually go down, it's got planetary bodies all the way up to 22 AU out. So pretty far. Now, before we actually jump to the system, we're going to go ahead and we'll go to the edge of this system. We're going to send that to the helm. But before we do that, let's go ahead and actually check out the stellar region chart here. So we can actually change the distance that we have this map set to, and it actually changes the stars around the ship and their distancing and everything, so you can get a much more refined scale and everything, make it a little bit easier to pick out nearby planets. You can bring that out to 20, which I think is what the default was. 30, which begins looking pretty impressive. And as you guys can see with 30 here, we've actually got some pretty different stars. And one cool feature of this is that these are basically physical representations of the stars. They're scaled down a bit differently, so some of these stars will be much, much larger than what they're represented here. But for scaling purposes, they've been brought down because just given the size they were was a little too big. But it's really cool because if you see like a really big star, something that just really stands out to you, you can easily go, okay, hey, cool, there's this kind of star here, and look for it on this, and then you can go find it, select it, you'll get the box around it, and you can go there and explore it. Eventually, what they want the option to do is that you can actually just come into the orrery here, and you can actually just select whatever star you want to go to just from this holographic map, as well as having a filter system, which isn't currently here, that you can actually filter out to specific star types and various other features and stuff. So I think that was 30 we're on. If we go up to 40, it's pretty cool looking. And of course 50 light years, which is the maximum. And this actually, especially with the lights off, just looks absolutely gorgeous. I think this is just such a cool feature. I really, really like this, and I didn't expect to like it so much, but yeah, it's just an absolute blast. And you know, eventually you'll be able to control this from the command console in all likelihood and everything too, and that's going to be just really cool. Then there's also a star system mode, which pretty similar to the stellar region. The star system mode is, actually I didn't turn my HUD on, let's go ahead and turn that on too, just so it's easier to select stuff. I've been trying to select stuff kind of blind here, but yeah, anyways, if we go into the star system mode before I get too distracted, you guys can see here we are in the Sol system. So we are actually in the system, kind of close by to the sun. And yeah, you can see our position there. You can see all the other planets in the system. If you go out to 5 AU, it's a little bit easier to see at 5 AU than it is at the defaults, but you can see the sun, you can see the ship and all that stuff spread out. Mars is kind of at the edge there. 1 AU is even closer, so you can see we're pretty close to Earth. You can't actually see Earth from here, because even though we look really close on the map, I think we're actually fairly far away. It might just be a rotational issue, but you can definitely see that Earth is not here. It could also just be that, like, the way the ship's currently centered, it's inside the planets. Yeah, so we'll go up to 20 AU, and then we can get all the way up to 40 AU. Now, the only downside is I have seen some planets extend beyond 40 AU in planetary system. So I don't know if that's going to change or get tweaked or how that's going to work, but hopefully that's something that can be messed with at some point in time. Anyways, we have a system we want to go to, so then we can come over here and there's a bunch of different things we can do. So this is the redone navigation panel. It's still also a work in progress, as you guys can tell. Definitely not the final design, but currently we can manually enter in a target location, although we did send one from the science station. You guys can see that this is our current position. This is where we sent from the science station to the helm. This is the location we want to go to. It says how far away it is. So we can just engage warp. You got your piloting controls here. You've got a debug option just to teleport to a target. And this is basically what was in before when I last showed this off. So when I last showed off the video, no matter what planet you're going to or what system you're going to, no matter where it was in the galaxy, the travel time would be the same. Now, if I want to travel from Earth to the other side of the galaxy, it's going to take much, much, much longer to travel that distance. It's going to take a fair amount of time. And we're going to attempt to do this, and this is really tricky. I've had a lot of issues with this currently, but it seems like it worked okay there. And I want to set the arrival distance to 10,000 kilometers, which in some cases is still a bit too close, but I think that should be just fine for an M-class star. So we're going to go ahead and set that to 10,000 kilometers. We're going to engage the autopilot. The ship's going to auto-orientate to the planetary system, or the stellar system, I should say. And we're going to go ahead and go to 10 light years, just so we can see a little bit better. And so the ship won't actually move on this map. The map will move around the ship, because obviously the sensors are on board the ship, so the stars' positions are going to change relative to the ship. So as you move through space, though, it's going to kind of every once in a while update, and you'll get additional stars that will blink into existence as it basically updates the stars' positions and everything and refreshes. So you can kind of think of it almost like a sonar ping, with the addition of some, I guess, algorithmic predictions, where it's basically saying the ship's going this direction, this speed, so the stars are going to be here, but then eventually the sensors will ping and go, oh, there's also some additional stars in the area that we've just, come on to sensors. So yeah, you can see the ship is moving and everything, though. We're traveling along, going to our target here. Now, I don't know exactly which star we're going to, but I'm guessing it's this one right here. Ship looks kind of lined up for it. Now, normally there's a target box, but I guess because I was messing around with other stuff, that target box is gone. So, we're going to have to wait a second here, though. So, yeah, this is definitely going to be like the bread and butter, though, of this game. Is this travel system, the exploration system is definitely going to play a big feature, so... we're actually flying past it, but we might turn in towards it. We're also going to, well, we are going to a planet on the edge of this system, and it's pretty far out, so even though it looks like we're pretty far away from the sun, the planet we're going to is actually not right by the sun. It is the very edge of this system. One of the other changes they made is how the planets are both lit and like heated and cooled and stuff, so the distance to the sun will make a difference in the strength of the lighting and how cold or hot the planet is. So if you have a planet that's right next to the sun, it's going to be probably a lava planet, but it's also going to have more or less lava depending on just how close it is. But it's also going to be much brighter around that planet, and the light hitting that planet that you would at the edge of a system where it's going to be very, very dark in some cases. And we got to probably be getting close, I would guess, but let's go ahead and go to the star system again. The only downside is like if you go here to 1 AU, for instance, this actually centers around the center of the solar system, not your ship, so if we're out on the edge like we are right now, you won't necessarily be able to see us. This one's a little over 20 AU out that we're going to. There we go. I thought I clicked it, but it didn't actually click, so you guys can see us way out the edge of the system there. This is a 40 AU distance. So it's about half as far, but you guys can see, even at 20 AU, with the sun as far away as it is, and the strength of this particular sun, and of course that's going to vary dependent on the sun and everything. That's the sun way out there for this system, this kind of red sun, and it is lighting up the planet, but it's a very dark planet otherwise, and yeah, very, very dark and cold place, but still pretty cool planet, pretty big planetary body, very imposing. Kind of spooky almost. Let's go ahead and let's turn the lights down low again. Just I really love the lower lighting and like starships and stuff, and honestly this is I'd probably run my ship with like low power lighting or something like this. Just the night shift lighting all the time. I always liked that in Voyagers. They had the dark lighting a lot. Let's go ahead though, head back over here. So this is again our planetary body. So this one's pretty far out. Let's see the difference between this and one at 0.12 AU. Now this is still relatively far from the sun, in the sense that this is still out in the frost zone. So this is like the edge of the frost zone for the sun. So we're gonna go ahead and send this to the helm. And we're going to engage the autopilot once again. Now, you don't need to just go to any particular planet. I am going to particular planets, but if you wanted to, you could literally just steer the ship using the helm controls, pick a direction, then hit engage warp, and then your ship will just engage at warp and just go in whatever direction you're pointing the ship at that point in time, which is really fantastic. So that basically means that you're not bound to go to certain stars or follow any set path. You can just go out and explore. And the plan is, and I don't think that there's anything like this in there now, but the plan is eventually you'll be able to actually just stumble across like rogue planetary bodies and stuff like that, which is going to be pretty neat. Now, there is also two other sensor modes which don't seem to work, which is focused, target, and planetary system. Planetary system, I'm not sure what the difference is going to be from that from the star system. Focused target seems probably safe to assume that whatever planet or star I have selected, if I click on that, it's going to focus the sensors as that is the center of the, our information. Then it'll probably pull up some additional information from that when it's over here. So like if we scan a planet, it'll give us information on the planet once we get like a detailed scan of it. And well, let's see here. There we go. So you guys can see, even as we drop out of warp, the lighting in the ship is much brighter because the sun is now right over there. And it's still pretty small, still pretty far away again relative to it. But yeah, much, much brighter both inside the ship and on the planet itself. The planet, it's kind of hard to tell because the other one's a lot darker, but it does appear to be a little bit warmer. It's still a very cold planet, but it looks like there's possibly some water there that's not frozen. It's hard to tell. I mean, this is all very cold stuff here. It could be frozen water, and this is just, not for, a landmass or whatever. It's hard to say for sure. But that's really cool. One of the other changes they made, and I don't have the ability to show this off right now, is they also added in multiplayer. And so this does work in multiplayer. There isn't really much reason to do this in multiplayer right now versus single player, but they are working on multiplayer. And as they're going through developing the game and adding all these features and functionalities, they're testing it with multiplayer and integrating it in to make sure it's working there as well. That is really all I have to show off to you guys, though. And of course, like I said, this is in a near constant state of development with, updates happening very frequently. We were at one point getting daily updates. That's no longer the case, and that's fine though, because we are still getting their daily updates through the developer as to what he's actually doing, and there's constantly stuff changing, like I said, and stuff being added or tweaked and updated, and a lot of things that are happening there. Now, I did want to cover one other thing, which is I talked about the format convention in my last video, and the format convention was supposed to be a gaming convention in the UK where they were going to have a demo of the game, and I promised to cover that demo when that happened. Now, unfortunately, that was supposed to originally happen like August of last year, and then that got pushed back because of COVID, and then it got pushed back to November, and then they just ended up canceling the event altogether. And unfortunately, because of that, the development team's priorities changed, and so they decided instead of focusing on the demo that they had planned for that, they were going to focus on some other features and some other things they want to do. With that being said, they still want to get a tech demo out. I don't know exactly when they plan to get that out, but they basically want to have some pretty significant process by the end of this year. I want to say that they were talking about getting the tech demo out possibly by the end of the first or even second quarter, maybe, for the year. So hopefully before too long we'll have a tech demo, and I will still be able to show that off to you guys like I had initially planned. But I am loving the updates to the ship. I know there's still a long ways to go and a lot of changes that we can expect to see. But there's a lot of things here to appreciate, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go with it. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Take it easy. I'll see you all in the next one.